Alright, I would go watch this movie before Leonardo DiCaprio gets deported. Well, today that's a real possibility. But it's always one battle after another. And if you want to talk about it, sit down, let's have a drink. Alright, this movie was more politically charged than the entire Republican Party after the announcement of Obamacare. Okay, let me just say that I am gonna have a few political snips here and there, but I am not here to choose sides. I am not here to pick a color, nor am I here to preach any rhetoric. I am just here to review movies. I am seeing that most people like this movie just as much as I did. There are so many amazing pros in this movie that I actually had to structure this review just a little differently. But I've got pros and I've got cons, so let's start off with the pros, shall we? One battle after another hits every devil-damned cinematic mark that you can possibly think of. That being said, I'm going to keep my pros a little vague in title. That way I can cover more under each category. Otherwise, I'll be here glazing this movie longer than Shameik Moore has been glazing Haley Steinfeld. The comedy in this movie is absolutely fantastic. Here we get to see Leonardo DiCaprio play a disgruntled single-father ex-revolutionist weed addict. And he sells it perfectly. It felt just a little reminiscent of his Wolf of Wall Street character, except this character's a nice guy. The majority of the comedy from this movie comes from Leonardo DiCaprio and supporting actor Sean Penn. Sean Penn, who plays character Lockjaw, a racist, power-bent military official absolutely obsessed with interracial relations. Honestly, I know what he's going through. I've messed around with a couple nuns myself. We get to see Lockjaw hilariously struggle with his denial of attraction to African-American women, while simultaneously licking every atomic piece of melanin off Teyana Taylor's nipples. Alright, not a huge spoiler here, but there's an ongoing joke with Leonardo DiCaprio that had me rolling the entire time. He has to remember very important and coded information from his revolutionary days in order to help save his daughter who's being hunted by the military. Except years of smoking marijuana and drinking Bud Light has absolutely diminished his memory. I've smoked enough marijuana in my day to know that if a revolution was to ever happen, well, the rebels' biggest kryptonite would be a joint. Kudos to Sean Penn and Leonardo DiCaprio being our hilarious leads here, but we absolutely cannot forget about Teyana Taylor, Benicio del Toro, and Chase Infinity. I will personally be starting a GoFundMe for Teyana Taylor to sell all her musical assets and continue pursuing her acting career. I mean, she really popped out with an S-tier performance I don't think any of us were expecting. There was a lot of sexuality into her character that also called for some hilarious moments. And if anyone's hot enough to pull that off, well, it's Teyana Taylor. I mean, I've seen reports of actual racists throwing in a towel at the sight of that ass. Then you've got her daughter, played by Chase Infinity, who absolutely kills her role. Now again, throughout the movie, we see Leonardo DiCaprio struggling to save his daughter who's being hunted by the military. There's points in the movie where we see Chase Infinity's character has to fend for herself without any of her parents or any protective resources around her. I believe this was supposed to be the young girl's shine moment. The kind of she can do it too moment. Now I am all for those moments. However, sometimes they can come off a little corny.
I don't know how you're gonna get through all that.
Don't worry.
She's got help.
Not this time. Paul Anderson decides to keep us fully engaged the entire screen time that Chase Infinity is present. And we thank you for that. And then we've got Benicio del Toro, who lures in the audience with this Hispanic charm that absolutely resonated across the theater. I don't think I've ever met one person in my entire time of immortality that doesn't absolutely love Hispanic culture. Seeing that world depicted so deeply and Benicio del Toro being the one to introduce us, well, it was nothing less than amazing. Speaking of worlds, let's talk about the scenery. This movie shows us very deep and internal depictions of different people in the world, as in life within the immigrant community, or behind the scenes elitist operations, military and police mindset and habits, and civilian mindset and habits. I felt like the Wizard of Oz crew when they finally get to see who's the man behind the curtain, except everybody was behind the curtain. Again, showing us depictions of the immigrant community and having Benicio del Toro being the one to introduce us completely spoke volumes for this movie, and may have been one of my favorite scenes. Alright, this movie was politically charged, but it did not hit with any absurdity. What I mean by absurdity is, well, Jordan Peele. The reason I don't much enjoy Jordan Peele movies is because he takes political and or social issues and disguises them under the mask of a supernatural entity. Now, I have no problem with the idea. On paper, that sounds great. My gripe with this is that he seems to never make it make sense, and his execution is almost always awful. This is why I think Jordan Peele doesn't hit politics correctly. But if you want to watch woke Scooby-Doo, well, be my guest. However, if you'd like to watch a movie that hits on political and social issues while using actually good comedy, and actual good writing, and actual sensible points, and actual good storytelling, well, you'd watch one battle after another. But it's one pro after another as we start to talk about this movie's plot. The way I saw this movie's trailer was the same way I saw the trailer for him, not knowing what the fuck to expect. Fun fact, I actually came into this movie with absolutely zero hopes. I think sometimes Leonardo DiCaprio's a hit or miss, and we've never seen Tiana Taylor in action. Obviously I was wrong and I thought the movie was great. However, one of those contributing factors was the plot. To quote infamous director Quentin Tarantino, nowadays a lot of movies put you into a situation and tell that story in a linear way. Situations we've seen before such as war, a bank heist, superhero, supervillain, etc. However, all these stories line up the same way where they tell us the beginning and then the middle and here's the end. However, a great movie will often have its story unfold. Maybe shown in the way of having characters tell different pieces, skipping timelines, or starting off at the end, then the beginning, then the middle. However you do it, the story unfolds from multiple directions, and that calls for great storytelling. And that's exactly what one battle after another did here. We had a few flashbacks that were placed perfectly, and the POV switches never felt unnecessary or dragged out. When I first saw this movie's runtime, whatever heart that I had left completely turned to stone. 3 fucking hours? Fuck you. But actually, fuck me. Because every single minute of those 3 hours was well deserved. I honestly don't even know what else to say about this movie besides the fact that I absolutely loved it. I would hope that its political satire doesn't turn anyone away. Maybe its runtime will, understandably. But if you know me, you know that I hate anything over an hour and a half. So trust me when I tell you that this movie needed to be 3 hours. But that's it for the pros, now on to the cons. Psych. There are no cons. Now you might be thinking since there are no cons that means I gave this movie a perfect score. Well, I did, but not because I couldn't find any cons. I gave this movie a perfect score because it resonates. And the best art usually does. I think during a very cautious and dangerous time in our world, a movie like this feels necessary to bring us all together with a big fat bag of popcorn and just enjoy a watch together. That being said, yes, I gave this movie a 10 out of 10. I promise you will not see that often. So much more I can say about this movie, but I promise you I will be here forever. Not that I'm not immortal, but you know. If I had to recommend another movie that showcases a politically slightly dystopian version of the world, well, I'd recommend the movie Leave the World Behind. But I want to know what you think about one battle after another. Talk to me in the comments.